Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Well, viewers, I wasn't expecting to be filming this today. This is a Volvo 850 with the 2.5 10V engine. It belongs to Mr. Hunter from the Geoff Buys Cars channel. It's a relatively late one. I think this is either a 96 or 97. I'll have to actually put that in the title of the video so you'll see that, obviously on a P plate. These number plates, by the way, they will be changed for the MOT. Before anybody asks. So this is a car that some of you would have actually seen at the NEC back in, well, it was only this month, wasn't it? And Mr. Hunter had, I don't know, tons and tons of cars on this P80 Volvo platform. You can see it's all sort of stickered up and everything like that. It's not something necessarily as I would have imagined we'd have on No Budget Reviews, but because of the price paid for this car and the fact that he's rather an expert with these, I thought it was a sort of bit of fun. He does have a T5 model as well. He also has one that we can't discuss, but this is the one which is working at the moment. So this is one that came out, and he's just over there with my C70 in the background. This is actually from Morgan factory at Malvern, which is interesting. So yes, this is an S model, so it's one up from the base, or the base model, depending on the year of the car. Originally, when these cars came out, so towards the end of 1991 for the 1992 model year, the base model was VSE, but that was later increased a little bit up of range. So, got just manual seats in here. We've got them all covered up. This nice fabric in here. Original fabric, as you can see, is on the door cards there. We've actually got, well, it's not dual zone climate control or air conditioning, it is dual zone heating and ventilation. And that's all it is. Got an amazing kind of stereo in here. RDS and anti-theft and little twiddly controls for the fader and all sorts of things. There's the fader, and that's the bass and the treble and all sorts of things. A push, I think we'll probably, it's working. There you go. That's the ashtray. Coin slots down there. It's actually got an OBD2 port. Must be one of the first cars actually to have one. Heated seats. Apparently these were an option on the S model. No cruise control. Cruise controls would be there if it was, and also other blank switches because this is relatively low down the range. Still got the fuel gauge, which actually shows in here that litres and gallons, which is quite good. The same 15-gallon tank that I've got on my C70, and 165,000 miles approximately. Leather steering wheel, which is quite nice. Very, very comfortable seats, of course. It's a mid-90s Volvo, of course it is. Electric window switches are actually on here, which probably made it a bit easier to convert the car from left to right-hand drive. Classic controls for the lights here. That, I think, is for the dashboard illumination on there. Front fog lights are here, just normal fog lights, not the front ones. And there is the control for the rear wiper. Early 850s didn't have an airbag. I know because I very nearly bought one earlier this year. It was 93. And this panel up here again is really familiar to me. It's sort of similar to one in a C70. Electric sunroof, I'm not going to try that because that might be broken. 5-speed manual in this car. You could also get an automatic. It was a 4-speed ACIN gearbox. I think that's actually the same one that's in my C70, the same gearbox, I think. We haven't got this sort of fancy trip computer in here either that would, you know, have a control there to go through it. We haven't got that in this S model. Doors are very interesting. There's just nothing on it really at all. The lever's actually hidden so that if you have a side impact, you don't, you know, impinge your body or anything on the lever to open the door, which I think is a good idea. Glove box. I don't think I get my secret mission documents in there, viewers, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But never mind. Do we get illuminated vanity mirrors? Oh, we don't get anything. Nothing. Nothing at all. That reminds me very much of the sun visors on my mother's 240. That one's not got a fancy feel on it. That just kind of is reminding me so much of it. The C70 that I've got is just a very, very fancy 850, which it kind of is. It's on the same platform, obviously re-engineered by TWR, but a very similar platform. So we will actually have a look at the boot. Now, when Michel Bouet, the designer of Renault 5, originally thought about the car, I think in the late 60s he was designing it out of his you know, free time. He wanted to make the taillights look like this, but I think this was the first car to have the taillights all the way down like this. Fiat Punto came a little bit later. That also has similar things like this. So we'll just open up the boot. As I said, the number plates are coming off when the MOT happens. We've got loads of space. I think you could even still get 7 seats with these. This car doesn't have them. Very handy for putting all this sort of detritus in here, and bit of car lube, fuel treatment. That's pretty good if you're running your car on E10. You can run these cars, apart from the T5s, because they need 97 octane fuel minimum. You can actually run these on E10. I think it's any Volvo after 1974, I think it is, I think 74, you can actually run on E10, provided you don't need the 97 octane fuel, which the T5s do. There we go, there's Mr. Hunter's little sticker there. I prefer this side actually, the John Player Special side. That's something that I prefer. The wings actually on this car, very, very typically of the 850s. It's not so much on the later S70s and V70s, but the wings rust on them like no one's business. You can see that one is starting to go. You can just see there that is actually starting to go. It's one of the reasons why we're on no budget reviews rather than sensible second-hand classics for this 850 is because, well, you can't actually buy an 850 without rusty front wings for under £1,000. One of these, oh yes, absolutely, you can get one for under £1,000 all day long. This car costs £900, which is brilliant. So we'll get in this side. Actually, we'll have to maybe get in that side because the rear legroom seems to have been severely compromised by something. But again, we've got manual rear windows in here. No door pockets for some reason, which is kind of annoying. Again, that's the sort of the colour the seats should be, or they will be on here, as you can see here. But what we will do here is reach in and see if we've got the child seat in here. No, this one doesn't have it. There was, for a time... Oh no, there we go. There is the child seat. And if you want to put it away, it does that. Isn't that exciting, viewers? Terribly, terribly exciting. We like that very much. I'm surprised there's not sort of more room in the back of here. I thought that these were quite sort of spacious. I'll go on the other side and actually see about that. But we might have a look at the engine first, actually, whilst we're here. We'll have a look at this lovely white block engine. And yes, the headlight wipers don't function. They have been disabled. That's a really common problem with these, and it's often not worth fixing them, so they just get taken off. So here's Volvo's famous white block engine. This is the 10 valve version of it. It's a 2.5 litre engine, although I think the capacity is actually close to 2.4, which is really confusing. In this case, generating somewhere between about 140 145 horsepower. There actually were 3 white blocks in the 850 range were developed around that power. It depends on like the model year as to what exactly they produce, but reasonably accessible. Basically, you do the cam belt on these. It's about, I think, every 5 years. This one has, well, we don't know. Not sure. The alternator though looks pretty new actually. It's like the alternator on my car. That's been done recently, hasn't it? That alternator, which is good. You've got to be quite careful about the PCV system on these and checking to make sure you've not got a crankcase that sort of blows your hand off when you start the car. So what you do is you take the cap off, just do that nice and carefully. And if you with the engine running, I'm not doing engine run in case I sort of you don't have any problems with it, but you put your hand over the top of there, and if you feel it's sort of pushing your hand off, then that's not a good sign. If it's just sucking it in a little bit, or it's doing nothing, which is what mine does, then that's absolutely fine. This is the fix for the slightly loose airbox on it, but honestly, for a car that's done 165,000 miles and is over 25 years old, it's not bad. And also, as I always say, these coolant reservoirs can also be modified to fit a Rover 800, which is a fact you didn't need to know. Right, let's get in the back and actually see if we can get in this time. Okay, so this is going to be a bit easier for me. Obviously, compared with the C70, it's a lot easier to get in the back. Nice square doors. Right, let's get my leg in here. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Headroom is absolutely fine. There's a little sort of step you can see in the roof to increase the space for headroom. Very comfortable, of course. You saw the child seat earlier on. Yeah, it's pretty good. You can see why these were so popular with families back in the day. And everything feels just quite well made. There's no soft touch plastic on here, but I don't think with a kind of load of children in the back of here you want, you know, the highest quality plastic. You just want something very, very durable, and that's what this is. Right, viewers, I think it's time to go for a drive. So viewers, Mr. Hunter is having a go at the C70 and I'm following him, hopefully I don't lose him. So the 850 used only Volvo's 5-cylinder white block engine, at least with the engines we can talk about on this channel. Basic engine was a 2-litre 10-valve engine with 125 horsepower, but apparently those are really, really slow. That wasn't actually available at the launch. The launch engine, as far as I understand in this country, was a 2-litre 20-valve engine with 142 horsepower. There was also a 2.5 20-valve engine available at launch. That developed 168 horsepower. Later on, there were two 10-valve versions of a 2.5, although one was badged as a 2.4 and one is a 2.5, so I get very confused about that. This one is a 2.5 as far as I know, and it develops about, I think it's 145 horsepower, something like that. The other one was about 141 horsepower. I get very confused as to which is which. Above that, there was a turbo version of this engine, which wasn't the T5 actually. It was the 2.5 turbo with 193 horsepower. That was also available with 4-wheel drive. And then we get into the very tasty engines. The normal T5 that was introduced at about, I think, 93. Those came out with 225 horsepower. And then we get to even more tasty stuff. The T5R, which had 225 normally and 237 on the overboost, and then just the R, which had 237 horsepower with the auto and 247 with the manual. There were also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So the trim levels available in a 850 initially were SE, GLT and CD. Later on the range was realigned, I think, a couple of times. So you had the base model was just called an 850, later that was called the S, and then initially the S was one up from the base like this one of his, I think. And then the SE was positioned above that, and then you had the GLT and the GLE, and then the CD as well. You could pretty much get most engines with most trim levels. So there are T5Ss out there, and there are 2-litre 10-valve GLTs, which is really strange. But that's the way Volvo did things back in the day. Lloyd Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. What we do talk about is the way that this car drives, which, despite the fact this car cost £900 and has done 165,000 miles, really isn't that bad. The Delta Link suspension in the back was a sort of semi-independent thing, and Volvo were very proud of it. And I think with variations of this P80 platform going forward to at least the mid-2000s with the Mark 1 C70, it was a very long-lived design. And it seems to drive and handle really well. In some ways, it's kind of better than the C70. It's a much more compliant ride in this, and the steering's really good. For some reason the steering feels better in this. I don't know why. It's really strange. You'd think the steering would feel better in the C70, but it doesn't. It feels that quite underpowered in comparison with the T5 though. It does feel quite a lot less powerful, but for somebody like me, this is okay, particularly with this manual gearbox as opposed to the auto. I can see where people just jumped in these, absolutely fell in love with them. They were very popular for a really long time. I'd like to get my hands on an S70 or Mark 1 V70, the P1 V70 they're called, just to see if there's any difference. There probably won't be too much difference, but I really like it. Mr. Hunter, he currently owns 3 of these, 2 we could talk about, 1 we can't. And I can understand why he just keeps buying them. I promised that when we did that episode of no budget reviews, on the first day I actually drove the C70, that we'd explore the Volvo P80 platform together, and that's exactly what we've been doing. Even this car, which, you know, isn't even his best example of what he's got on his fleet. In fact, in some ways it's, you know, challenged in many ways aesthetically and everything like that, but I think it's fantastic. If I ever want to sell my C70 because I get fed up of the rear visibility and fed up of the bad turning circle, which this car does not share at all. The turning circle on this is really good. Certainly one of these might be on the cards. We'll just have to see. Right, let's go somewhere and draw some conclusions, shall we? So viewers, the Volvo 850, should you buy one of these with your Heartland budget up to £1,000, I mean, you can. It's not the most reliable car if you buy one of these up to £1,000. Just discovered this car's got quite a bad power steering fluid leak, and there are other issues. You might have noticed the fact that this car's actually on coilovers, which is why the suspension seemed a little bit harder than usual, and the fact we've got a blow in the exhaust, that probably explains the noise that you were hearing. But actually, if you've got one that's had the cam belt done, if you want to increase your budget to maybe £2,000 or £3,000 and find one with non-rusty wings without leaking power steering fluid and other issues that this wonderful car has, but bear in mind it made it all the way to the NEC from Worcester and back, and it's driving around. It's one of the cars that Mr. Hunter's using on a daily basis. Then you know, why not? We also have a video that we filmed in the C70 in this, dealing with roadkill. So when that goes live on the channel, I'll put a link in the description below so that you can see. So thank you to Mr. Hunter and Geoff Buys Cars. Thank you all very much indeed once again for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Geoff Buys Cars, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.